Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen, all in crypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another daily cryptocurrency market update. And if you are new around here, consider subscribing because we release an update just like this one every single day to help you guys stay up to date with the latest and greatest things happening in the crypto space and also the markets. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. Unfortunately, it's a very lackluster, to say the least, time in regards to the cryptocurrency market and its price action. And we do think that you are now in a kind of spring period for the crypto space. We think the crypto winter is largely we're coming out of it, and we have entered spring. And certainly Bitcoin up 60%, some altcoins up hundreds of percent this year alone. We do think that the crypto spring is well and truly here, and this is often how we come out of a downtrending market. We often have a kind of surge and then it gets retraced and then we start to find our feet and move forwards. And there are macro forces at work. We've spoken largely about this kind of food chain of markets, and you have bonds, real estate, and things like that at the top, this colossal derivatives market. And crypto is really a plankton at the bottom that is affected by the things that go into that food chain. And right now we still have a very restrictive and signaling to become more restrictive monetary environment that, of course, has effects on liquidity, and crypto takes from that pool. So we will be talking about that. Bitcoin, we've really been expressing our short-term uncertainty for the crypto space, and the price action's largely confirmed that we're right to do that. There's greater forces at work. We really have spoken about things like real estate, some of the real estate ETFs that don't look hot at all. We've spoken about debt that continues to get hit and is continuing to go lower. I do think we will enter a period quite shortly, certainly if things continue, where actually the Fed starts to talk about yield curve controls. And we are going to come onto the crypto space. We'll look at a little bit of price action. The main focus of this video in regards to crypto is going to be obviously Gary Gensler's testimony in front of Congress yesterday. We're going to be playing some of the key highlights of that. And then, of course, I really want to look at data is so central, and forward guidance for the Fed is central because it's affecting the food chain and the liquidity and everything. And yesterday you did have a Fed member actually come out and say he's not sure. We might not be as restrictive as we otherwise would think. It's no coincidence that markets are stalling under inflationary inflation. And of course, today we've got more Fed speakers. We've got the likes of Cook. And we've also got the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, actually speaking again. And then tomorrow we're going into PCE. So we will cover all that. But what I want to do is really kick the video off. It's just a really, you could say boring, although there's never really a boring moment in the crypto space. Time for crypto. You've really been in this kind of period since March. It's not really done a lot. It's stalling. After having a really good run, you've got lots of things on hold. The ETF, ARX ETF got pushed, I think, the deadline to January 2024. You are going to get an ETF. It's just going to take a little bit of time. And actually, in regards to Bitcoin, a great place for me to now move on to bringing in Gary Gensler and some of the key takeaways from yesterday before we get into some more boring, putting everyone to sleep macro stuff and chart analysis. Gensler did actually come out and confirm that Bitcoin is not a security. So let's jump into that clip from yesterday. We've got a couple of other clips. You've got Emery, and you've got Torres, who really spoke up in defense of crypto. You've also got Coinbase, and a number of others that are at Congress, really trying to campaign for the crypto space. So let's dive into the clip of Gary Gensler confirming that he believes Bitcoin is not a security. An ETF will get approved, guys, and it will open the door to trillions in terms of value that could flow into the crypto space. We've seen what happened with gold and the SPY when they had their first ETFs and the run that they went on post that. So let's dive into the first clip of Gary Gensler confirming that Bitcoin is not a security.
Your view on Bitcoin, you've made comments on this. You believe Bitcoin is not a security. Is that true?
Well, I think the staff of the SEC have also, and the prior chair.
I'm just asking you this question, and this is not a gotcha. I thought this was going to be an easy softball into harder questions. Do you think Bitcoin is a security?
I think I've said this in the past that I think that it doesn't
I'm asking you to answer
test.
my question now. This is not supposed to be hard.
I know. I said it does not meet the Howey test, which is the law of the land about being an investment.
So it doesn't meet the Howey test.
Security.
So therefore, it's a commodity. Is that fair?
I would say it's not a security, and then the test is otherwise for other laws.
Very interesting. You know, these subtle things that are mentioned are all going to factor into crypto and how it plays out. And we've got this regulatory hurdle to get over. And regulations are the thing right now. You know, we do so much research on a daily basis into some of the largest companies in the world and how they're looking to utilize central banks, institutions, the crypto space, distributed ledger technology. They're all actively looking to integrate it. We looked at Microsoft leaks. We looked at, you know, whoever it may be. And they're all, the only thing stopping them from coming out publicly right now is this regulatory kind of hurdle that we will get over. It's just going to take time. And this is, you know, very much a part of any new technology becoming recognized as a global asset. I want to move on now to Torres's questions that he put forward to Gensler. And again, Gensler continues to avoid and come up with poor excuses for classifying everything other than Bitcoin as securities. And you know, it's very interesting that the price of Bitcoin, actually, if we can go to that very quickly, it's looking for reasons to move, right? Okay, you had this really nice start to the day. Gensler started speaking, instantly back down. And it just goes to show the fragility right now of the market in terms of liquidity and the lack of volume. This will change and it will come back with a vengeance. And believe me, when crypto pricks its ears up, in the environment that we're currently in and the macro direction, a little bit more certain, you see the stocks start to rally and things like this, which we think they ultimately will. We think right now there's this kind of uncertain period. That's why the dollar's getting a bid, oil's going up, you know, the dollar's that real safety trade. And also, you know, if you look at cross markets and the FX market, it's almost de-euroization, not de-dollarization. And we can see that in regards to global remittances. All really boring things that we are sad enough to spend the time looking at, but we keep you up to date on as it's a factor. Crypto really is just looking for a reason to move. And you know, you had a nice little double top hit, double bottom, sorry, and then you perfectly hit the target and then sold off from it. So there are technicals at work on the short term. Let's move on now to Torres and some of his questions actually relating to the crypto space and Gensler.
Good morning. I worry that the term investment contract has become so infinitely malleable and manipulable that it means whatever you unilaterally thinks it ought to mean, right? I worry that when it comes to crypto, your interpretation of the term investment contract has no limiting principle and therefore could invite arbitrary and capricious enforcement action. So I want to take a few minutes to explore the concept of investment contract in greater depth. And I want to start with an obvious definitional question. We know that an investment contract requires an investment. Does an investment contract require a contract?
You know, something about this definition, I will quote Thurgood Marshall, Congress painted with a broad brush. And when Marshall said that, he was writing the law of the land. So we follow this Howey test and how not just Marshall, but other courts interpreted it. And it has a four components.
Again, I did not go to MIT, but in the Bronx, if I ask whether an investment contract includes a contract, the answer is typically yes or no. So.
Well, actually, sir, under the Supreme Court law of the land, they do not write that in. They say it's an investment of money in a common enterprise, and you're anticipating profits based on the efforts of others. So I took an oath to follow the law of the land, and that's the Supreme Court law of the land.
So in Howey, the Supreme Court refers to an investment contract as a contract, scheme, or transaction. That was the terminology that I saw in the case. And as far as I can tell, there's nothing in the Supreme Court's jurisprudence that suggests that a scheme or transaction means the absence of a contract. And so by way of illustration, you know, consider the landmark case of SEC versus Howey. In the Howey case, there was not a single contract, but there were two contracts. A land sales contract with the Howey company and a service contract with Howey in the Hills. And the court found that the combination of those two contracts, the total scheme, the total transaction, the total economic reality, was constitutive of an investment contract. And so a scheme or a transaction does not mean the absence of any contract at all. It means, as it did in Howey, a multiplicity of contracts. In August, there were 6 law professors from law schools as preeminent as Yale who came to the following conclusion, quote, no decision of the Supreme Court has ever found that a scheme that does not involve a contract could qualify as an investment contract. And so do you disagree with that statement? And if so, could you please cite a decision of the Supreme Court that has found an investment contract in the absence of an actual contract?
the SEC has been in front of multiple courts, and investment contract has been.
What's the name of the case, Mr. Gensler?
I'm
The Supreme Court case that has found an investment contract in the absence of an actual contract. Do you have the name? Can you cite a case?
The SEC over the decades, whether it's
Can you cite a
chinchillas,
case?
whether it's whiskey caskets, whether it's crypto, if the public is investing based upon the efforts of others.
I find it telling that you cannot cite a single case.
That's a security.
Not a single. How about a Second Circuit case? Can you cite a single Second Circuit case
I
that found an investment contract in the absence of a
I
contract?
understand where you're trying to go, and I'm going to leave that to the very fine attorneys at the SEC in front of courts. But I'm saying the core principle
Mr. Gensler,
this is a field.
this
that
is. Let
picking
me finish.
the
Let me finish.
pocket
This
of
is
the
this is
public.
a question to which you should know the answer, because the definition of an investment contract is the central issue. That's what determines the extent of your authority. That's what determines the applicability of federal securities law to crypto transactions. And your
I am
inability to answer
answering
that
it-
question
I
is
am-
baffling to me.
I'm answering it consistent with what the Supreme Court has said, which is the law of the land is a four-part test.
And yet you cannot cite a single case to
It's
support
called
your argument.
Howey, it's called Reeves, it's called many cases at the Supreme Court, sir. 8 or 9 times it's been affirmed by the Supreme
Can I ask, suppose I were to purchase a Pokemon card, would doing so constitute a security transaction?
You could purchase a Pokemon card. I don't know what the context is, but if you're just purchasing a Pokemon card.
If I purchase a Pokemon
at
card, is
at
that a security
retail
transaction?
store, that's not a security.
Okay. If I were to purchase a tokenized Pokemon card on a digital exchange via a blockchain, is that a security transaction?
I'd have to know more.
Okay. So for you, the process of tokenization is what transforms a non-security
said it.
transaction into a security transaction?
Look, if the investing
I thought you were
public-
technology neutral.
If the investing public is anticipating profits based upon the efforts of others and they're exchanging funds, that's the core.
I
of
see
that
my time has
test.
expired, so.
We're going to leave that there. So quite a bit of clip viewing, but I think this was the main takeaways from yesterday. You did have Emery, who came in pretty strong. I think Torres kind of fumbled it a little bit there with the Pokemon card. I could have probably come up with better questions to have asked than a Pokemon card. But again, just no real direction or oversight in regards to crypto and how it's looking, how he's looking to regulate it. You know, I still think it's a power grab. Emery did go on and actually grill him about, you know, his own zealousness for, you know, government and his part in it and his own career. But very interesting things. You know, it's all an evolving landscape and you know, we're trying to keep you up to date with it. And that's why we thought those clips were important to play. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section on what you guys think. Of course, the markets really are, this is a 2-hour chart, just looking for things to anchor on. And you do have a number of Fed speakers today. You had a Fed speaker yesterday that mentioned a number of things. He said rates may have to go meaningfully higher, a number of other things, you know, and again, after Jerome Powell's speech last week, the real estate market did this and the debt markets did this. And that's telling us two very rate sensitive markets. The stock market since has been in a bit of a corrective phase. You know, it needs to find its feet. Is it going to come down for this retest here and bounce off it? That could be a likelihood. Crypto, however, is just going sideways under this kind of jaw rest. And right now, I still can't give you much on the short term. Mid to long term, we think we've got good enough macro reasons to expect the markets to do well if you look at what happens when rates go sideways, or the fact that actually, and this is contrary to what most people think, that the market always ends up higher when they finish rates than when they started them. And that's very contrary to what people think about liquidity and everything in between. And of course, today we have Fed speakers, and tomorrow we've actually got PCE, which is the Fed's preferred method of looking at inflation. You've actually got GDP as well today. So you could get a little bit of turbulence. The dollar's obviously gaining strength, but on the back end of all this uncertainty and the de-euroization, the dollar will take a break eventually. I think this is like the 11th or 12th straight upward week for the dollar. You know, what happens now? I think this is a breakout. You may look for a retest. It is going to determine the markets. And looking at gold as well, you know, gold got hit really hard. on the back end of all this signaling, and crypto factors into that, even though it's a kind of plankton, if you will. And it's very interesting to me that actually crypto is, we'll just use this chart, kind of following the 4-year cycle theory. You know, it's doing pretty much what it does here into, you know, what could be a good 2024, potentially 2025, but we do think that there is definitely the risk of the yield curve and things playing out in that event. So we will keep you up to date on the channel. Let me know what you thought about Gensler's comments and the hearing yesterday. There were a few more clips that we wanted to play, but we don't want this video to be super long. It's already gone on for nearly 16 minutes. So I think we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Not a great deal in regards to crypto news, very lackluster along with the price. Things will return, and right now, just like we played that clip yesterday of the guy talking about one salesman woke up in the morning and it was raining, so he said he's not going to go and make sales. The other person woke up and said it's raining. This is a great opportunity because no other salesmen are going to be out there. You've got to apply that to crypto. There's major opportunities right now in the crypto space. It's up to you guys whether you take them or not. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.